Hello, Kansas FCA, Derby High School, Perry Ellis. We are so excited to have you guys join us today. We are doing a panel with some very special guests. The last few years, Perry has ran a camp and has partnered with Fellowship of Christian Athletes along with Derby High School. And due to some COVID reasons, like everybody else is going through, we're not able to have camp, but we want to provide something encouraging for you guys to watch. I know you guys have wrote in questions this past week, and we're going to get some of those answered. And just hope that this is just an encouraging time for you guys as we just get to know these three a little bit better. One of the people that you guys are going to meet today, Coach Brett Flory, will you raise your hand over there? Oh, you're in my left-hand panel, Coach. Brett Flory is entering his 10th season, as a head boys basketball coach and an 11th grade English teacher at Derby High School. And in 2019, he became the winningest coach in Derby High School boys basketball history, which that's a huge compliment, Coach. There's a lot of winning coaches at that school. And he was selected as an assistant coach in the McDonald's All-American game. I think I forgot about that, Coach. That's a huge honor. He is happily married to his wife, Michelle, and is the stepfather to current DHS junior, Brooke Cooper. So, Coach, looking forward to hearing from you today. Next up on the panel, we have Coach Karsak. There you go, Coach. She is the wife of Ben and mother of Jacob and Casey. She is a substitute and head girls basketball coach at Derby High School. It's her 8th year. Coach, I remember when you first started, when we were having these conversations back in the day. She's a 2018 state champ, 5-time state semifinals, and 2020 KCA Coach of the Year. So one of the most well-respected women's coaches in this state, and so honored and fortunate and glad to have you. And then next up, what's that, Coach?
I said I'm excited to be here.
Well, we're excited to have you. Also, this is the woman that keeps me in line. So she is my mentor. And,
I don't know about that.
Yeah. So huge part of my life. So Perry Ellis, as many of you guys know, had a very successful career at KU. He went to Wichita Heights High School. He's an alumni there. Something that impresses me about Perry is most of you guys know he's a 4-time state champion, but he was also valid Victorian of his class. And so way to set the standard, Perry, for getting it done in the classroom, both on and off the court. He was the leading scorer for KU each of his last 2 seasons and ended his career as number 8 on the Kansas career scoring list of 1,798 points. That's in 4 years, guys. And number 12 in the rebounding list with 834, and become only the 4th player in school history to rank that high in both. I mean, there's so many great people that have come out of KU to be able to be ranked that high. I mean, I know, Perry, I know this is a huge honor. And I mean, wow, just congratulations again, not only for getting it done and setting an example on and off the court and what you do. And just so honored to have you on this call today as, we talk and try and encourage everyone. And he is currently playing, and he's currently playing overseas and he says, and traveling the world. And so we get to hear hopefully a little bit more about that with you, Perry, today.
For sure.
So I've asked these, you guys have wrote in, we've asked these questions. I have some fun questions at first, and then we're going to talk about each of their experiences. And then they're going to give you a little bit more of who they are in Christ, and share a little bit more Jesus with you guys here. But at first, coaches, I have such an important question. I know this is a deep question. Please spend all the time you need thinking about it. But what is your favorite candy?
Well, it's the hard-hitting questions right off the bat like that. It's tough, but I've got one that luckily I'm the only person in the whole house that likes them, hot tamales. I'll clean out a box of those at a time, no problem. So definitely hot tamales.
Well, I would say for me, a Reese's peanut butter cup's gonna, if I have a player that is maybe not had a great practice or something and they bring me one of those, they're in great standing with me right away.
So anybody that's watching this call today needs to, your future players, they need to remember that.
Yes, absolutely.
I hope your husband's
And-
taking notes as well on that one.
He bought me plenty.
That's hilarious.
And mine would definitely be a Snickers. I just remember trick or treating and always just taking all my brother's Snickers. So that's mine.
Now, were they willingly giving them to you, or was it just kind of, you kind of just dipped into their Halloween bucket a little bit?
Just kind of did. Sometimes a trade. Sometimes they'll do a trade. So it just kind of depends.
That's awesome, Perry. That's awesome. Who is your guys' favorite NFL player? It could be of all time. It could be now.
Well, I'll stay local. I'm a Lawrence and Kansas City native. So growing up, I loved Derek Thomas. Played outside linebacker for the Chiefs. And in my brief and inglorious football career, that's where I played too. So I wore 58 for him and all that. Of course, right now, though, I got to be a Mahomie. I mean, how can you not be right now? So that's where I'm at.
Rumor is he got a little bit more. His pocket got a little bigger.
A little bit. For me, I don't even know. I think I saw Randall Cunningham play, and somehow he just impressed me. He was my very first jersey as a kid that I bought. I don't even know where it is, but I wish I did. So Randall Cunningham, when he was with the Eagles, was my guy back in the day. And then, of course, Patrick Mahomes now. I'm with you, Coach.
Seems to be a recurring theme.
Yeah.
I guess I would go back. I mean, since I don't really have a favorite, but the only jersey I ever had was Marshall Faulk. So I guess I'll say Marshall Faulk.
Who did he play for, Perry?
St. Louis.
St. Louis. Okay.
Yeah.
Now, all right. Another really challenging question. If you were at the mall and you were hungry, what would be your food of choice?
That's easy because I go there whether I'm hungry or not. Doesn't matter. But the little cinnamon place, whatever you call that place, that's Annie. What's it called? I don't even remember its name. Annie. Yeah, there you go.
Yeah.
That's must stop. Like, I don't care if I just had a Thanksgiving dinner. I'm going to stop by there and have some of those just because. So definitely that's an easy one for me.
Yeah, that's good stuff. And I miss that. And my answer is kind of boring because I have that silly gluten allergy. So whoever can give me the best salad, that's where I'm going.
Oh, man.
Yep.
Really, really splurging there, Coach.
I know. Everything has gluten in it.
Most times when I'm at the mall, I usually getting Chinese food. So something like that. Panda Express, something like that.
Well, Coach Flory, I would probably name you the winner on that one if we had to pick. I mean, nothing beats those pretzels. I mean, those things, you walk past the mall, and I mean, you think you can smell those clear down at Penny's. I mean, those things are delicious.
Somehow I can smell it when I'm getting out of my car. It's amazing. Just pick right up on it.
This was like 3 years ago when I was actually eating gluten, and it was the last day of all my interns here, and they were supposed to complete their workout, and all of a sudden they start walking out of the Y, and I was like, and they knew Auntie Anne's like was my secret place that I loved to go to, but I just would never allow myself to do it because if I did it, then it was just like, so it was like this twice a year thing for me. But they start walking out of the gym before their workouts were done, and I was like, hey, what are you guys doing? And they're like, we're leaving. And I'm like, hey, well, you guys aren't supposed to leave. You know, I'm the boss, right? Like, and they're like, no. And they're like, you're leaving with us. And literally they put me in their car. They didn't even let me drive my own car. And they drove me, and they're like, I'm like, where are you guys going? And they wouldn't tell me. And we ended up at Auntie Anne's. They kidnapped me and took me to Auntie Anne's Pretzels their last day. So it's just torture. I mean, but somebody had to do it. So, you know, I made sure and take one for the team there. All right, another question. What's your favorite color?
You know, I've always had
Carolina blue, that baby blue. It's just so always been a favorite of mine. I'm not necessarily even a huge North Carolina fan per se, but man, whenever I was in high school, I would get Carolina jerseys and stuff just for that color. So something about that I've always loved.
I would say I'm going to give you the answer, political answer. Green is magic, right? But really, I love the color yellow. I don't even know why. I'm just drawn to it.
It's bright.
Mine, I'll probably say black. I love black clothing, like shoes, shirts. I love the shirt. So black.
This is my favorite camp shirt. I like this one too, Perry. Okay, this is another one for all of you guys. We're going to take a little bit, but what is the best book that you have read outside of the Bible?
For me, I kind of have to have a co-answer on this. Now I'm an English teacher, so you have to excuse that. I like to read and whatnot. So fictional work, To Kill a Mockingbird has always been my favorite. Just so many unbelievable life lessons in there, I think, about empathy and how we should look at each other and treat each other. And especially in this day and age right now, I think that book is more relevant than ever, with a lot of the lessons that it has and contains. For a nonfiction, this is one that, probably not a lot of young people would have ever seen, but there's a book by this guy named Joe Ehrman called Inside Out Coaching. And it's just kind of a coaching handbook for me. And kind of the overall, if I had to sum that book up in one sentence, it's, as a coach, you always have to think about what does it feel like to be coached by you. And so in a way, it's about empathy as well. And that's a huge subject for me always. And both of those books kind of deal with that, I think.
Yeah. That's great.
Love those two books too. Those are good ones. The Inside Out one's probably in my top 5, Coach, no doubt. Fiction for me would be, it's kind of more of a girly book, I think, a romance novel, but it's called Redeeming Love by Francine Rivers. It's basically the story of Hosea in the Bible put to fictional characters, but just really about how Christ loves the church and his people. I think it's about, I don't know, it's probably the thickest book I've ever read, and I read it in a couple of hours. I couldn't put it down. But most recently, probably one of my top books, it's a book called Rare Leadership. It's a scientific / biblical view on leadership. It's very, very, it was a lot for me to take in. I've read through it probably 3 different times, and every time I'm just blown away by how the science and the Bible fit together. But to kind of just, pinpoint exactly what it's about helping the people you lead to really find joy in what they're doing.
That's awesome, Coach.
My favorite would probably be Coach Wooden's Pyramid of Success. My grandma and grandpa had gave me that book, and it's just something about like just the pillars, the pyramid of it, all the different aspects of it that just help you in life, and it's just something I really like.
That's good. Well, coaches, I have a few questions for you guys right now, and then we're going to ask some other questions here to Perry. But Coach Flory and Karsak, would like you to answer as well. What do you look for in your team while you're in practice?
That's so many things, of course, but for me, it starts with, we always break down on 2 words: play hard. That's, from the get-go with, I think, any coach, that's the number one thing you want from your team. That's where everything starts, is unbelievable effort. And that's why we kind of start with that as our emphasis right off the bat every day. But after that, and Coach Karsak is unbelievable with this when I watch her practices. What you're hoping to have is a team spirit in your gym. And there's an old saying that a quiet gym is a losing gym. And I think that holds a lot of truth. And so you're hoping that there's a level of enthusiasm as a coach. Of course, you want to make practice challenging and tough. And I remember when I was a manager at KU, Coach Williams always talked about he wanted the players to just barely be able to walk out of practice because they're so tired. But he also didn't ever want it to be something that anyone dreads coming to, that there's something to look forward to, and there's some fun and some enthusiasm with it. So hard work and team spirit, I think those are the two hugest pieces of practice to me that I look for.
Oh, thanks for that, Coach. That's challenging.
Coach, your practices are very spirited as well. I mean, he doesn't just say those things. His guys work hard and they have fun when they practice. I think your guys love coming to practice. I really do. I could piggyback off of that. I'm trying to just, that's a tough question to really kind of pin it down to one thing. But I really kind of think about whatever it is that we need to be better at. I think is what we're looking for that next day, because our goal every day is to get better, because we're in pursuit of our best self as people and as players. And what is it that next day, whether it's after a game or maybe we killed a drill in a poor way the day before, we want to do it better the next day. So, or maybe our communication needs to be better. So I think it's hard to answer with one thing, but to put it all into one, wrap it up, is to be getting better that next day.
Thanks for that. Yeah, it was a very open-ended question, so appreciate that feedback. What is the best, or no, let's go this. Let's go this question. You know, this camp has been geared for a lot of younger kids up till 8th grade. And so one of the questions that they're asking is, what is the best way to prep for high school basketball?
Again, there's, basketball is such a multifaceted sport. There's so many things to think about, but I know that one of the hardest things to kind of correct just from a technical aspect with young basketball players is if they come to high school and their shooting mechanics aren't proper at that point. It's rebuilding a shot's difficult. So if there's one fundamental as a young player, especially through middle school, I would love kids to focus on that come into our program. It would be to have that proper shooting form figured out, and whether that's through camps or trainers, coaches, however you get that at a younger age, that's huge. And today's game is so much about spacing and flow and pace, but none of that works if you don't have shooting to stretch the floor. And so from a very technical aspect, I think that's the number one fundamental I would love kids to focus on. I think I can teach you defense once you get up here. Hopefully you're giving defensive effort throughout your junior high or middle school years, but we can improve other things quicker than I can improve shooting, I think. So that would be my number one thing.
Coach, 100% agree with you. Of course, all the fundamentals are very important, but I think the things, even when we help Perry with his camp, we stress to those kids just correct shooting form. I think along with that, putting the time into it. I tell the kids all the time, if you're going to go play a piano recital for the whole city, you're going to practice because you don't want it to sound bad. But these kids think that they can come in and just shoot well without really putting in that kind of time that you would need to play that great recital. So I 100% agree with you, Coach Flory, just taking the time to get those proper mechanics from the feet up, from the floor up. we teach different footwork, maybe program to program, but have some sort of footwork along with that shot.
And Coach Karsak, I'm going to ask this question to you. You know, with your team, how important do you value character on your team?
Well, to be honest, I believe that's how you win. You're going to win with character. You can, I mean, it is a cliche and all the coaches say it, you know, we're going to win, you know, with character. But truly, if you've got kids who care about each other, they care more about the team winning than their own accolades. I mean, I think some of the hardest things for kids to do is to go, you know what, I need to set aside my own agendas, which may be points or playing time or whatever. That's tough. That is hard, especially for a teenager, because we're already just at that age, you know, kind of self-centered. I mean, that's just part of that time of their life. And so if we can work past those things and really be about each other and for team and playing for something greater than yourself, it's super special because, and if you've got kids that are talented along with that, it's a lot of fun.
And Coach Flory, you had a kid on your team, Jacob Karsak, on your team this year, which if the name doesn't ring a bell, it's Coach Karsak's son. And you know, as we were going through our Athlete of the Year awards, you know, he was the male winner this year for the entire area. And what are some of the characteristics that he had during practice, just as a student leader, and you know, how did he stand out so much, and what are some of the things that he did?
Oh, you know, first of all, Coach Karsak is the most unbelievable teacher of character that I've seen. She challenges me every day. Just watching her, she doesn't know it, but to be a better coach and better teacher of that. And no better example than what you saw from her son, Jake, because Jake's been coached by her his whole life, you know? And so it's, and Ben, her husband as well. So it's no surprise, but the number one thing that always stuck out to me about Jake is, you know, yeah, he was a hard worker, the hardest worker that we had and all those things. But the number one thing with Jake is it seemed like there was no situation, no day, no loss, no negative thing that could happen to him that would change his mentality about being positive. And it just, I'm sure some might even be familiar with the injury that he suffered in football. His junior season, he lost it because in the state championship football game opening kickoff, he got his ankle broken in the worst way imaginable. And throughout his entire junior year, he was there every practice. He was there every game. And he was like another coach. And we had a little bit of a tough year that year because we lost not just one, not two, but three starters that year because Jake was going to be a starter. And we ended the year well, though. We played very well in the playoffs. And if not for Jake's constant encouragement, his positive messages through all the tough times, I don't know if that would have been possible. And it's been noticeable, you know, as we've had workouts this summer, his absence. You know, we've got a lot of talented players right now, but we're still kind of looking for that person that's just that unbelievably positive influence and positive voice every single day. Nothing could get Jake down, and that is sorely missed and something I admire about him a great deal.
Thanks for that, coaches. I know we could talk about you know, so many things as far as just skill set and what these kids need to prepare for. But I know both of you guys, I mean, just integrity matters on your team and character matters on your team. And you guys also coach that. So just thank you for just being such a light in your schools and on your teams. And just, you guys know how to press forward and you guys know how to encourage and also challenge your kids just to get better every day. Just, you know, on the court and off the court. So Perry, we have a couple questions for you now that we want to go through, and coaches, thank you so much for your answers. We're going to get back to you two here in a minute, but Just a few questions for Perry. What does a typical practice day look like when there are no coaches around?
So that's a good question. What I've learned over the years, especially professionally, it's a lot easier working really hard when you're in a practice setting with coaches. But what I had to learn is, and what made me better as a professional is working just as hard just by myself, pushing yourself. It's tough to do, and you have to learn how to do it. But nowadays, I mean, I'm working, it doesn't have to be long, 45 minutes, hour, where I'm going all out, doing my moves full speed. And I feel like that's really been beneficial to me and my individual workouts for myself.
That's so good. So you're playing overseas now. What is unique about playing overseas, and what are some of the countries that you've played in?
So it's pretty unique. My first experience overseas was Australia, which wasn't bad, besides the driving. So, you on the other side, the steering wheel's on the opposite side, you're driving on the other side. So that was probably the weirdest thing ever. I mean, I catch myself like drifting off, like kind of to the curb because you're just so used to sitting on the other side. So that was interesting. But other than that, it was pretty easy. And then from there, went to Italy. That was different from language. The language barrier was tough. You in restaurants and you have your phone, translating it. Then from Italy, then it was Germany. Germany, they spoke English pretty well. But overall, just different cultures is just pretty cool to see. From Germany then I went to Turkey. Turkey was really cool. Istanbul. That was another one where language barrier was pretty tough. So phone was huge. Your phone is huge over there to be able to figure out what's going on.
Perry, you're talking about adaptability, and I was reminding the story of, I think I talked to your mom weren't you playing for Germany and your parents were getting ready to come over for vacation,
Yeah.
but then you got transferred teams, and so they had to
Yeah.
transfer everything. And
So yeah, I mean, yeah, you don't with the professional, like, I mean, those teams, like players are moving from team to team through seasons. I mean, you just never know. You never know.
it'd be so important, I would think, to make sure that, just to keep grounded and do things that you're keeping grounded, because, change is just happening just all the time. And so I know you spend a lot of time making sure that you're staying grounded. And I mean, because you just never know, right? Each day you never know what news you're going to get.
Exactly.
So, yeah.
Exactly.
Okay, so I remember so excited to watch you at the TB2 tournament last year, and we didn't even, I don't think, got a minute in. I think it was like 57 seconds, and you went down, and everybody in that place, it was silent, and we knew that you had hurt yourself pretty bad. And so this past year you've had to take a year off to have your knee recover, but man, there's so many incredible stories that have happened this past year for you. Can you kind of share with everybody what God has done and the year you've had while you've rested your knee and healed up?
Yeah. So initially, right as it happened, I was in the emergency room just trying to figure out what went wrong with it and what was going on. And Coach Self was on the phone. It's like, man, we got you, man. I want to get you up here, so you can rehab, then finish your degree. So that's first off what I got to do. I was able to go back to school, finish my degree. It wasn't much left. I didn't finish because I left early my senior year to go like prepare for the draft and stuff. So I had some hours of internship that I needed to finish. I got to finish that. Then the next thing that kind of happened, I've always wanted to do, I got baptized. And then also what good came from it, I got engaged as well. So I mean, I'm just thinking back on it, looking back on it now, and it's just like, if I didn't get injured, I don't even know if any of that would have happened, all those good things would have happened. So it's just like, wow, like, look what God wanted to happen and look how it happened. It's great.
That's just super encouraging. I mean, we all go through trials and everything, but you see so much good sometimes come out of just tough situations. And you know, we're glad you're healed. You know, you're healing, continuing to heal and back out on the court, and just pray this next season goes well, but also just so encouraged to kind of watch this past year, all the things that God has just provided, and you know, just been there every step of the way. So congratulations on the engagement. I mean, that's
I appreciate
phenomenal, you know? By the
it. Oh
way,
yeah, it's
I've seen the ring. It's definitely a rock. It is a rock. So you did good, buddy. You did good.
I appreciate it.
All right, we're gonna get into a little bit just more questions just about their faith and who these guys are just in their relationship with Christ. And so we're gonna start off as, what's your guys' favorite verse?
I love Romans 12:2, and when you think about not conforming to the standards of our world, you know, I think that has so many applications and lessons. And when you think about what conformity is and how easy it is to slide into that in today's age of social media, and you know, just so many influences pulling you one way or another, to not conform to the world standard, but to be transformed by the renewing of your mind. That, from the first time I read it, that just struck a chord in me, and it's something that I have always remembered. I still have it in my Twitter handle to this day. Every time that I'm reminded of that, I'm reminded that as a Christian, you are set apart in this world. You know, that it could be certain behaviors that you do or don't do, that other people, you know, might not totally understand. And Christ has set you apart, and has renewed your mind in a way that maybe not everyone's mind has been renewed in. And you're not conforming to the world. You're doing what God asked you to do. And so that one is a huge one for me that I keep in mind every day.
Well, Coach, mine, what you just said, being set apart, Deuteronomy 14:2, it actually, a lot of people don't know this, but is why, you know, we kind of brand our programs. And I picked Uncommon several years ago, and I chose that because we are, that verse tells us that we are set apart as God's holy people for his purpose, and just to live uncommon. And that's basically what you just got done saying with your verse as well. And it's hard for me to kind of pick a verse. I think it depends on what I'm going through at the time. Right now, like Romans 12:12, really, just with everything going on in the world, you know, it tells us to rejoice in hope, be patient in tribulation, and be constant in prayer. And I just think about how the uncertainty of everything, like we have Coach Flory and I talk almost every day. We see each other like, okay, what's going to happen? What do we get to do next? And there's so much uncertainty. And that verse reminds me that I have hope. And I can rejoice and have joy, that I can be patient in that tribulation. I know that God's in control, but also I'm going to stay plugged into him through prayer. And so right now, that's kind of the verse I've been kind of hanging on to, is Romans 12:12.
My favorite probably be Proverbs 3, verse 5. Ever since I got social media, that's what I put on there, and it's a great verse for even now what's going on as well. Trust in the Lord with all your heart and not lead on your own understanding. I mean, so like there's a lot, you know, there's so much going on that we can't control. I mean, you can't control it, and you just have to trust and keep praying, stay prayed up. I mean, because all you can do is control your trust, and I feel like that's kind of a good verse for what's going on right now.
Yeah, those are such good verses, guys. Thank you for that. Next question I'm going to ask you, just an elevator, you know, just question on, you know, what is your testimony? How did you come into a relationship with Christ? And so I'm just curious from you guys.
Yeah. Quick version. and this is why FCA is so important to me. And anything FCA asks me to do, I'm more than happy to do for this reason. I was always I believed in God. You know, it wasn't that my family was not religious or anything, but we didn't really go to church, and you know, I didn't really know a lot about anything. Senior year in high school, in the fall, I'm invited by some friends to our FCA huddle at Lawrence High School in the fall. It was fall 1996, and I'm not gonna lie, the main reason I went was because we held them at people's houses. We have our huddle meetings at people's houses, and this huddle meeting might have been at a certain girl's house that I kind of had a little bit of a crush on. So that might or might not have been the reason why I went there to start. But, you know, God at work in your life, that's what he had to do to get my attention, I guess. So, anyway, so I go, and our huddle leader was Coach Stidham. He was one of our assistant football coaches there. Great guy, I knew that, but I had never really learned about what Jesus has to offer in your life until that day, until that night, and how Jesus wanted me to know him. I had never really understood that fully. And Coach Stidham prayed over anyone who wanted to invite Christ into their life. And that moment, I can't say anything other than I just knew it was real. There's just a feeling in your heart that went through my whole entire body that I knew this was real. This is what I wanted, and this is what I needed.
Coach, just so you know, you're not alone on that story. I've heard from actually quite a few grown men that during high school they went to FCA because the cute girl invited them, and then they gave their life to the Lord. So hey, I mean, you're in the group. You're in the group. The Lord knows how the Lord knows what he's doing.
Yeah, he does. That's awesome. Let's see, my elevator testimony would go something like this. I come from a really, really difficult home life. We're very poor on food stamps, single mom, 4 kids. Before the dads we had in our home were abusive, alcoholism, all of that kind of stuff. So as a young kid, I had nothing I felt like I could hang on to. In my life, I couldn't articulate it, obviously, as a little gal. But I had a friend who invited me to church. And back in the day, we used to do these like tent revival things in towns. And at the time, I lived in DeSoto, Kansas. And they were having a tent revival at the local church. And she invited me, and I heard the gospel, and I said, I need that. I just knew it. I was in 3rd grade, went forward, and very similar to Coach and his experience, I knew my life had changed. And that's exactly what he says. We're born again. We do change. In that moment, we are different. We are born again, and so that's how I came to know Christ.
Mine ties in with sports. That's kind of what brought me to Jesus. My youth pastor, we started meeting for lunch, like every like twice a month maybe, or something like that. We would meet and just get into the word and pray. And then it was my sophomore year. Came the time. At that point, I was real successful in basketball. I was doing well. Won a lot of awards, and I always knew. I don't know. I feel like God instilled this wisdom in me. Like there's something more. Like just winning. I wasn't fulfilled. There was a bigger purpose, and we met, and I said, my youth pastor Jeremy. He said, do you want to accept Jesus Christ as my Savior? And I just had a feeling. I was like, this is what's missing, and I did that, and just everything has changed for me. As far as I had a purpose, people knew who I was in the sports because God wanted me to be able to share this, and that's kind of how it came up for me.
That's awesome, Perry. It's fun to see your journey and hear your journey, and then to get baptized this past year, and it's just been really cool to see how God's just worked in your life. All right, I have one more question for you guys. This was a question that was brought up frequently from some of the people that had. But how have you guys been involved with FCA, or how did you start getting involved with FCA? What's your involvement now?
Well, kind of like I had in the previous answer, my first involvement was my senior year in high school, and I'll forever be grateful because, if not for Coach Stidham and, the FCA chapter at Lawrence High School, I don't know where I would be right now. And so I'm just so thankful for them. Once I became a teacher and coach, I've always, tried to be a part of or be available to FCA as much as possible. Coach Karsak does an unbelievable job at our school. She'll sure tell us all about it here in a minute. But, I tried my best to encourage any of our kids or in our program or just any student in my classroom or whatever the case might be to give FCA a chance, because it's so much fun, and obviously it meant so much in my life. And so I'm just appreciative of it, and so appreciative to have Coach Karsak in our school who does an unbelievable job with it.
FCA, I really didn't hear about it until my freshman year of college. I can't remember the guy's name, but I believe he's still at Cloud County, and he's the huddle leader up there, the track and field coach.
Ted Schmitz.
Yes, that's him. So great guy, got involved there. And then Jill Killen, who was an assistant at Wichita State, she was recruiting me, and we would have conversations just a ton about the Lord. And there was not at that time a FCA huddle group at Wichita State. And she challenged me, if this is where the Lord would like you to be, let's start one up. And I would say that was probably half of the reason why I chose to go to Wichita State, was the opportunity to be a part of FCA and to start that there. And then just seeing the platform that sports has. I mean, Perry, you alluded to that, and what a great and amazing platform you have, and the people that you are inspiring just to even figure out a little bit who God is in their life. I mean, sports is such a great avenue. So you love basketball and you love Jesus. There's just not a better thing. And I know, Kelly, you approached me a few years ago. I think it's been 6 years ago now, maybe, to kind of get one going in Derby again. And I had a few girls on my team who said, yeah, let's go do this, coach. And I really have to say it's awesome thing we have at Derby, and Coach Flory gives me a lot of credit, but truly we have amazing student leaders. I just show up and unlock the door, and they get it going. I mean, from everything from the opening to who's speaking that night to how we close. So it's been a great opportunity. FCA has been an awesome part of my life as well.
So for me, me and Kelly kind of ran into each other when I was working out, and I think she might have been working out as well. Am I right? Yeah. So
That's right. It's them stairs. So, they were
that was maybe. Yeah, them stairs are no joke. But it was probably about maybe three, going on 3 years now, maybe a little before that actually. But yeah, she kind of popped the idea, to kind of put a camp together, like kind of partner together and do a camp. And I mean, just over the time, I was just thinking, I was just like, how that kind of really goes with my story, sports and Jesus. And I was like, how fitting, that's really fitting. So we ended up doing a camp, and then here we are now.
Yeah, you stepped in and helped us out with that, our major banquet. And I promised you that I would help you hold your camp, and I wasn't going to break that promise.
That is right. Yeah.
Oh, yeah, that was pretty cool. So, Guys, thank you guys so much. Statistics keep coming out that the most impactful person outside of the home is the coach, and I have no doubt that that's not true. Coaches, what you guys are doing is life-changing. I know these kids see you guys as second moms, as second dads, as just a light of hope, and have heard some really cool stories lately of kids going to practice or whatever for the first time after this COVID and running across the parking lot, giving their coaches hugs. And that's just the light that you are. And Perry, thank you so much for being just an athlete that is a good example, that is modeling Christ, and just grateful for you and for your leadership. And we're so blessed to be able to host this camp. And for all of you guys that are watching, grateful for all of you guys. We hope to be back next year, and I hope this message is positive to you guys and that you find it encouraging, and that you find encouragement by getting up each and every day and knowing who the Lord is. And I know all of us are just trying to grow each day in our faith, just like you. And so just challenge you guys to do that this summer with some of the extra time you guys have. Just spend some time in the Word, or talking to mentors or other people in your life that are glorifying God. So guys, thank you guys so much. Appreciate you guys, and we'll talk to you guys later.
All right. Thank you.
Uh,
Guys.